And then Bill glimpsed Fu, lying underneath the broken tree. Yes, there was the old gentleman, lying underneath his own Christmas tree, almost obscured by the ransacked present boxes, the turkeys and plum puddings. Bill ran to him, clearing away the debris. He knelt and cradled the old man in his arms. He'd been impaled on his own sword stick. At first, Bill thought Fu was dead, but then he saw a flutter of the eyelids, and the old man's lips opened and closed, and an inarticulate gargle broke from his throat. "Don't try to speak, grandfather," said Bill. Bill. Be still, grandfather. You need medical attention." Why did this have to happen on Christmas Day, of all days? If only we could have had that last Christmas together, my boy. Yes, grandfather, but you mustn't worry about that now. But what is the meaning of all this, grandfather? Who are these dreadful people? But it was too late. Fu gave a last great cry and fell back dead. Bill flung himself on the corpse, but there was nothing he could do. The old man was gone. Bill turned and ran from the house. He stopped at the fallen gates at the end of the driveway to glance back. The mansion was in flames. The sky was lurid, and smoke swirled around the hilltop. Like a stricken beast, Bill turned down towards Hong Kong. Grief and shock had numbed his brain. His only thought was to take refuge in the mean streets and alleyways of his childhood, to shelter in the squalid slums from which Fu had raised him up all those years before. He took a room in a cheap hotel. For a week, he was practically in a coma. He ate nothing. He could hardly distinguish between waking and sleeping. It was all one long, dreadful nightmare. Finally, hunger drove him out one night to a rough seaman's cafe for a bowl of rice porridge and a glass of tea. He was sitting there, sunk in apathy and despair, when a newsboy entered the cafe. "Read all about it," the boy was crying. "Amazing revelations in Christmas Day massacre." Bill pressed a coin into the boy's hand and took a newspaper. Emblazoned across the front page, in banner headlines, he read, "Prominent Chinese detective exposed as evil genius." The page was spattered with gruesome photographs. The shell of the burnt-out mansion. A picture of Fu's body amidst the Christmas debris, contrasted with snaps from happier times. Fu presenting a check to charity. Fu at a government house reception. It is now known Bill read, that Fu Manchu who died in the Christmas Day massacre was none other than the legendary overlord of the Oriental underworld. For years he had posed as a respectable member of society, while all the time directing the nefarious operations of a huge criminal empire. It was not known if Fu's protege, Bill, last seen entering the mansion, had perished in the blaze or not. It mentioned that he could be identified by a livid scar across his right cheek, the result of that blow from Fu's sword stick all those years before. As he had once been so suddenly raised up from the depths, now he was just as abruptly cast back down into them. He ran to the waterfront. Escape was the only thought in his mind. To get as far away from here as possible. He had just enough money to bribe his way onto the crew of a tramp steamer bound for England. He jumped ship in London and hid out in Limehouse, the traditional Chinese part of London. He who had once been welcome in the finest homes in England now felt himself lucky to find a place amongst the lowest of the low. For 10 years it continued in this way, as he sank deeper and deeper into shame and degradation, supporting himself by a life of petty crime. And then, just as abruptly as before, he had another amazing change of fortune. It happened this way. One day he went to the local pub, crazed for a drink as usual, because he'd become a terrible alcoholic. "Brandy," he snarled at the barman. "Give me brandy." "I'm sorry, Mr. Bill. No more for you today. Not until you settle your account." "Give it to me, curse you." "I'm sorry, sir, I can't do that." And the landlord turned to serve the next customer, a respectable old gentleman who had dropped in on his way home from work to buy a bottle of medicinal brandy for his invalid wife. Bill went crazy. He leapt the counter and, drawing a flick knife from his pocket, held it at the barman's throat. The customer intervened, easily overpowering Bill, who was in a very weakened state. Then the old gentleman looked penetratingly into Bill's face. "No," he murmured. "No, you aren't. It couldn't be. It would be too incredible." "You hold him, sir," the barman said. "I'll call a constable and have him in charge. He's a terrible nuisance, and he's gone too far this time." "No, hold on a minute," said the old gentleman. "I'll be responsible for him." "But he attacked me, sir. He's mad. He's dangerous." "Here, my good man." And the old gentleman slipped the barman a £10 note. "Well, if you insist, sir," the barman said grudgingly, "but I still say he's dangerous." "Don't you worry, my good man. I'll take care of him." And he ushered Bill outside, keeping him in a firm half-Nelson. Let me go. I ain't done nothing," Bill whined. "That's enough of that. You just come under this street light here, where I can have a good look at you. Now don't turn your face away like that. Look at me. That's better. Extraordinary. His finger traced the long scar on Bill's cheek. "Leave off," Bill whined. "Let me go. What you think you're doing?" "You're William, the adopted son of Fu Manchu, aren't you?" the old gentleman said. "No, I ain't. I never heard of no Fu Manchu. Leave me alone." "Your name's Bill, isn't it? I heard the man inside call you that." "Well, what of it? Plenty of blokes called Bill." "How did you come by the scar on your cheek?" "Oh, I don't know. What you want with me anyway? Are you a copper or what?" "No, William, nothing like that. I happen to be the president of the Fu Manchu Society." "Fu Manchu Society? I never heard of it. What's all that about then?" "Well, we model ourselves on the Robert Browning Society or the Charles Dickens Society. We like to meet once a month to read and discuss the works of Fu Manchu." "Fu Manchu? Seems like I might have heard of him, Gov, now you mention it. Wasn't he some big crook out in Hong Kong?" "Well, William, that was what was said of him at the time, but we've never believed that. They were just filthy rumours put about after his tragic death by jealous people. No, William, he was much maligned. Many of us in the society knew the old gentleman back in the old days in Honkers. We knew there could not have been a word of truth in all those terrible stories that were spread about him after his death. But William, what of you? All these years we've been searching for you, my boy. Whatever could have happened to William? That's the constant cry at our society. If only we could find William, we're always saying. William knew Fu best of anyone. He could tell us all about the real Fu. And now, here you are, dear old chap. It is you, isn't it? Say it is." "Yes, I am Bill, adopted son of Fu Manchu. I didn't want to own up at first because I thought you might be a copper. I've been on the run all these years, you know, hiding out. A proper dog's life it's been." "Oh, my dear fellow, my poor fellow," the old man said. "How shocking for you. Look, you must let me take you home. All the other members of the society will be dying to meet you. We'll call an extraordinary general meeting. Here, have a swig of this. You look like you could do with a drink." And he handed Bill the bottle of brandy. When Bill had had a good old gargle, the chairman led him to his chauffeur-driven car, which was parked nearby, and took him home. There Bill was given a lovely hot bath, a suit of the chairman's own clothes, and the first square meal he'd enjoyed in many a long year. So once again, Bill's fortunes had changed dramatically.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know, where the treetops glisten and children listen to hear sleigh bells in the snow. I'm dreaming of that white Christmas, with every Christmas card I write. May your days be merry and bright, and may all your Christmases be white.
All the members of the Fu Manchu Society made the most tremendous fuss about Bill. He was a terrific hit at the extraordinary general meeting. He reminisced for hours about his life with Fu, and all of the Fu Manchu Society hung on his every word. They wanted to know all about Bill himself, his early years, his life with Fu, and the wasted years. Yes, they needed to know about them too. Bill was feted and made much of, and treated like a king. All the members of the society wanted to have him home for dinner and to stay. As a result of all this benign attention, Bill quickly reformed and regained the sunny disposition he'd known in his years with Fu. His resilient nature reasserted itself. With good food, his health returned. He began to regain his self-respect. He gave up the booze. He enrolled at the London School of Economics to finish his business studies. The society set him up in a little flat, paid him a living allowance, and commissioned him to write the official biography of Fu. Bill fell in love with the president's beautiful daughter, and she was just as keen on him, and they planned to marry in the new year. One day, a few weeks before Christmas, some members of the society were round at the chairman's place, having a couple of eggnogs and a bit of a chat. The conversation turned to Bill, and what a wonderful thing it was, his having been rediscovered. What a boost it had been for the society. "Yes, that's all very well," the chairman said. "But you know, I can't help feeling we haven't done nearly enough for William." "Hear, hear," several members murmured. "I know what we could do," the chairman went on. "Christmas is coming up. We know how much Christmas used to mean to Bill and Fu. Why don't we give Bill a bang-up Christmas dinner with all the trimmings, like he used to have with Foo? I'm sure he'd love that. And all the other members agreed that this was a wonderful idea. Weeks of preparation went into it. They hired the biggest banquet hall in London. There were plump turkeys to be procured, hams, plum puddings, lovely decorations, a roaring log fire, and a 30-foot Christmas tree, all covered with twinkling lights and with an angel at the top, not to mention all the presents for Bill underneath the tree. And then there was the pantomime to be prepared, and a choir of carol singers to be trained. Tight security was maintained so that Bill had no idea of what was going on. They wanted it to be a complete surprise. "What are you doing for Christmas this year, old-timer?" the chairman of the Fu Manchu Society casually asked Bill one day. "I don't really have any definite plans as yet," Bill replied. "Why don't you have it with us? There's a good fellow. We're having a very quiet Christmas this year. Just the family, you know. But you'd be most welcome." "That's very kind of you, sir. I'd be delighted to join you." On Christmas morning, the chairman picked Bill up from his flat. They drove to the banquet hall. "Why are we stopping here?" Bill asked innocently. "I thought we were going to your house for dinner." "Oh, we are. I just have to make a call here for a moment. Why don't you come in with me?" The chairman led him into the hall, and then the doors were flung open to reveal perhaps the greatest Christmas dinner that had ever been prepared. Hundreds of members of the Fu Manchu Society and their family and friends were seated at long tables, the boards groaning with the weight of the turkeys and the hams and all the rest of it. The choir burst into song. Bill took it all in. The tree, the decorations, the log fire, all the well-wishers looking at him with big, happy grins on their faces. They felt pleased as punch at what they had done. They waited for the joyful smile that would surely crease Bill's happy face. How happy he will be, they thought. How this will make up for all those sad years. But no, on the contrary, Bill burst out crying. First of all, it was just a few sniffles. Then the tears were pouring down his face. And finally, his whole body was convulsed by great, heartrending sobs. Oh dear, what had gone wrong? "Bill, Bill, what is it, Bill?" the chairman pleaded. "Why are you crying? We thought this would make you happy." It's all right. It's all right," Bill said between his sobs. "I'm sorry. I'll be all right in a moment. It's just It's just that these Yulish things remind me of Fu.
Wings in March that made my heart a dancer. A telephone that rings, but who's to answer? Oh, how the ghost of you clings. These foolish things remind me of you.